OK, go ahead. What did you want to ask David on the show today?
Well, my particular kind of bugbear is just with the moral argument for God.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't quite understand how you get to... I mean, I think of morality as being shared values that we have about right and wrong that have evolved within ourselves. And it's just that often listening to these shows, the moral argument for God comes up, and I just think, I don't see how you can say that it's a justification for thinking that God exists based on morality.
Okay, I mean, it's the classic argument, and I guess I almost want to turn it back to you in terms of a question, but since you mentioned Richard Dawkins, let me quote The God Delusion again, where he says it's virtually impossible to have an absolute morality without religion. The trouble with having a non-absolute morality is that then, even if it's relative to what? How do we decide what's right and wrong? And you use the phrase, as many people do, shared values. But what if you have a society where the values aren't shared? Who decides?
Well, I think that morality is not objective. I think it is subjective. But I think the problem, you use sort of terms like that, it's kind of, it's more complicated than that. I mean, I think that morality is relative, but the question is, what is it relative to? I think it's relative to human nature and to society in general. And I think there are quite a few things in morality that are fixed and are unchanging because they're important to how we've evolved. Things like killing people. I mean, that's, I think it is a subjective morality, but I just think, obviously everyone agrees that killing is wrong, because if there'd been a lot of people that thought that killing everybody was right, then, they wouldn't have lasted.
But everyone doesn't agree that it's not that killing everybody. Everyone doesn't agree that killing is wrong. For example, a significant number of people in our country think it's okay to kill a baby in the womb. A significant number of Germans in the 1930s and 40s thought it was okay to kill Jews. It is not the case that everyone presupposes that all killing is wrong. They don't.
Well, obviously it's a generalization to say all killing is wrong. I mean, obviously if somebody is trying to stab my family to death, then obviously I'd think it would be right to kill them. It was just a generalization. Killing is wrong.
Yes, but the problem with that, though, then the minute you move from saying it's not an absolute to it's then a generalization, and I mean, to me, the thing what you said, it's subjective, it's how you feel. But what if I genuinely feel it's okay to go out and kill prostitutes? Why would that be wrong?
Well, I mean, so the question then is, what do I think of as being wrong? I just think of things that are wrong are, it's an instinct from within me, which I presume comes from my genes. And it's basically things that it's like the God will treat others how you would wish to be treated yourselves. And I think you can, a lot of things come from that.
But why I suppose the question is, why should we believe that is the right thing? Do you know what I mean? It's like you kind of just puts the whole question back a bit, doesn't it? If you say this is the general rule, do unto others as you had them do unto you. Well, what if I just disagree with that? What makes my belief wrong compared to your belief? Surely it still comes down to the idea that there's some kind of absolute that this is the right way to do things and there's a wrong way to do things.
Well, I think there's different things which some people think something is right, some people think something is wrong. You might think that, say, killing babies for fun is right, and I think it's wrong. And I mean, I can't say that you're wrong, but I could say, relative to human society and to human nature in general, that most people agree on this, because they've evolved to agree that. And in that case, I could say that you might believe it's right, and that's up to you. But in relation to human society in general, what you believe is right, most people think is wrong.
Yeah, but
that's as far as you can go, really. I mean,
if that's as far as you can go, then you end up in hell, and I mean that. I mean, you end up in a society which is dominated by people who have money or control of the media and who determine what our morals are. You end up with the government trying to have social engineering in schools. You end up with those who don't accept what society's view is as being ostracized and condemned and possibly persecuted and killed. If you have no absolute morality, you end up with the anarchy of the wealthy and the tyranny of the powerful. So that's the problem. I mean, it was Bertrand Russell who, after the Second World War, on, I think, the Old Home Service, announced that Dachau, the concentration camp, Dachau is wrong, is not a fact. Now, he said he felt it was wrong, but he couldn't prove it was wrong. Now, from a Christian perspective, for me, it depends where you start. I start with the fact that if you kill my wife, it's wrong. I start with the fact that if you murder millions of Jews, it's wrong. And then I work back. And in actual fact, if you are a naturalist, materialist atheist, you do have no basis for saying absolutely it's wrong. But because I know it's wrong, for me, that undercuts the whole argument. That's why Francis Collins, for example, the head of the Human Genome Project, became a Christian. Because he recognized that there was no basis for morality out with God, for absolute morality. There's a basis for relative, but then relative to what? And it just goes round in circles.
But I don't think it does go round in circles. I mean, there are some things that we can all generally agree on, and those are the things which have that we've evolved.
But people in this country generally agreed that slavery was okay just over 200 years ago. But the point is that we all agree now it's wrong. Now, who was right? Are you just saying it's all relative? Back then they thought it was okay, therefore it was okay back then. Now we think it's not, so now it's not okay.
There are some things which we agree are right, and those are things that we've developed over thousands of years. There are things that help us survive and which help the social group that don't harm us.
Could you name one, Alex? Sorry, just name one, because it's helpful if you name one.
Killing babies for fun.
But that's one. But was there ever a society that thought? Was there ever a time in human history where we thought that killing babies for fun was okay?
Well, that's my point. There wasn't, because if there ever were people that did that, they wouldn't have lasted very long.
But Alex, that wasn't your point.
My point was, before I was interrupted, there are some things like killing babies for fun, which we all agree on, are wrong, because if you thought they were right, you wouldn't have lasted very long. But there are a hell of a lot of other things which we can't agree on. And that's the thing. We have to, gay marriage or something like that. Some people think it's right, some people think it's wrong. And, there are debates, and people have to persuade other people that it's right, other people have to persuade other people that it's wrong. Things like slavery, I mean, that's one of these things. It's like, for a long time, people thought it was right. And then some people thought it was wrong for other reasons. And the people that thought it was wrong convinced the people that thought it was right. And, that's how it is. There are principles of morality, I look at it, which are...
Okay.
I wouldn't say they're objective. I wouldn't say they're floating around in space anywhere. But they're things which everyone can kind of agree on. And why do they agree on them? Because they wouldn't, it's evolved. They wouldn't have lasted very long if they thought killing babies for fun was right. But there are other things which are totally subjective and which people do disagree on.
Well, let's take, I mean, what you did say, you mentioned the killing babies for fun, you said we'd evolved. Well, we've never evolved from that. People didn't kill babies for fun. But they certainly do kill babies for convenience. And that happens now, that babies are killed for convenience, 200,000 per year in this country. Let's just talk about the slavery one. I mean, that's very, very interesting. Is slavery wrong?
In my opinion, yes. And in the general sort of opinion of society, yes, it is.
If the general opinion of society changed, would slavery be right?
In my opinion, no, it wouldn't be.
But why would your opinion matter?
Well, it matters to me. It's my opinion.
Yes, I know, but you live in a world doesn't consist of you. You live in a world which... the rules that are made in this world are not made either for me or for you. They're made for all of us. So if you thought that... Why would you think that slavery was wrong if the whole of society thought it was right?
Well, I mean, that would just be something that I would have figured out for myself. I think you've got a point in a way. Say, killing babies or something. If it was the case that a particular society, let's just make up a crazy scenario, but babies that were being born with a disease which kind of was killing everybody off, then in that case, it would become right to kill babies. Mm-hmm. So, things change. I don't know if there was a particular scenario when slavery was right and society thought it was right, then yeah, that could change. There is no absolute morality. There is no objective morality. Things can change.
But you see what you've just walked into, because what you've just walked into is Nazism, because Hitler managed to convince, it wasn't just him, it came from him and others, that the Jews were actually vermin who were ruining German society. And people believed that. And by your standard, you're saying it was okay for him to do what he did to get rid of that vermin.
No,
it helped German society.
Yeah, but how can you say it's my standard unless I say that it's right? My standard is that was wrong.
No, your standard is that if it's harming society, you get rid of it. That's what you just said.
No, I don't see how that links to me. I don't see how you've come around to by my standard. I'm endorsing.
Well, you said if it turned out to be that there were babies who were creating a fatal disease, then it would be okay to kill them. That's a standard that's saying because they're harming the whole of society, then you would kill them. Now, all I'm saying is you extrapolate that into other things, and if you determine that, the Jews are harming society, and you really believe that, and they did really believe that, then by that standard, in other words, the standard that you've just espoused, it was okay for Hitler to do what he did.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, there probably were the people that were doing that to the Jews did manage to convince themselves that was right, and that just says to my point that morality is subjective.
Yes, and that
was right. They managed to convince themselves that was right.
Absolutely.
But a hell of a lot of other people thought it was wrong, and the majority of people thought it was wrong. The majority of people in Britain thought it was wrong. In America, the rest of the world thought it was wrong. And that's why it was dealt with. Yes,
but it wasn't dealt with because we didn't fight a war on that basis, and even laterally in the war we refused to deal with that whole issue. That wasn't what the war was fought about. But the point is this. You're right. That's exactly what happens when you regard morality as subjective. In other words, if you think, I feel this, I can do it, I can get away with it, then you end up with Nazism or something equivalent. And that's why you need an absolute morality.
Well, I obviously think that's ridiculous because I think that morality is subjective and relative, and obviously societies aren't.
We're going to have to move on because we're out of time, I'm afraid. But we seem to go round this merry-go-round every time, don't we? We do this. But Alex, really interesting to talk to you. Thank you. Sorry we can't have you on for longer. I'm saying that to all our guests. But thank you for contributing today. Really interesting to get your perspective.
Nice to talk to you, Alex, and enjoy Aberdeen.
Yeah, enjoy that. Thanks.
Okay, cheers.
Thanks, Alex. Moral argument for God covered in 15 minutes there.